I went to my boyfriend's house to meet the family, only to discover his entire family were my exes. His father was my recently dumped sugar daddy. His brother was the professor I had a one-night stand with. His younger brother was the online boyfriend I'd driven to a breakdown. His sister was the A-list actress who used to treat me like her puppy. And his mother was also a sugar mommy I'd hooked up with. My boyfriend's father cornered me against the wall and said, "As long as you break up with my son, I can raise my grandson as my own son." Wait, what? I remembered the breakup reason I'd given him. "I'm sorry, I'm pregnant with someone else's child. Let's break up." "So you want your son to call his son his brother? That's too advanced for humanity." Today, my boyfriend finally brought me home to meet his family. "Don't be nervous. My family will definitely like you." Outside the mansion, Ethan Vance probably sensed I was a bit out of sorts and tried to comfort me. I nodded, feigning composure, but my heart was racing like crazy. To be honest, I'm a serial dater. Before last night, I had 5 lovers. Ethan, after a night of heavy drinking, absent-mindedly agreed for me to stay at his place for Christmas and meet the family. Considering I'd be stretched too thin at his house, my time management might become an issue. I had no choice but to break up with the other for that very night. My phone started vibrating again. I secretly checked it. Sure enough, my puppy was whimpering and begging me to get back together. I quickly turned off the screen. "Come on, my family's waiting for you." Ethan took my hand and knocked on the door. A man immediately opened it. Ethan called out, "Dad," and then introduced him to me as his father, Kevin Thorne. I forced a smile and looked over. Then my vision went black, my legs went soft, and I promptly knelt down. Ethan paused for a moment, then quickly helped me up. "Sophia, we don't do that in our family. No need for such a grand gesture." My legs felt glued to the floor. I kept my head down, not just unable to stand, but wanting to grovel at his feet. Kevin, wasn't he the domineering CEO I'd just broken up with last night? My ex was actually my current boyfriend's dad. I wanted to die. "Dad, Sophia gets shy easily. She's probably just nervous. Please don't blame her." Ethan pulled at me for a long time but couldn't get me to stand up, so he could only explain to his father like that. "Oh, Sophia, right? If you hadn't said anything, I would have thought her name was Samantha." Kevin's voice carried a hint of gritted teeth as he spoke. "That's right. Samantha was the fake name I'd given him." "Sophia, why is your head down? Are you hiding something?" Kevin squeezed out each word. My cervical spondylosis is acting up. I need to go to the hospital." "Then get up." My foot ailment is flaring up. I can't get up. I need to go to the hospital." "Ethan, call Dr. Thompson over to examine Ms. Davies." "Dad, Sophia's last name is Miller." "Sarah Miller." Well, 3 words in my name, and I didn't lie about a single one to him. Helpless, I could only slowly, shakily stand up. Ethan reached out to help me, but his father glared at him, stopping him cold. That old geezer is incredibly possessive. Last time at a party, someone just glanced at my backside, and their company went bankrupt the next day. Rumor had it they were beaten to a pulp on the way home. With a distraught face, I said, "Hello, Kevin. No need for formalities among family, just call me Daddy." He looked barely in his early 30s. As he said this, a smile played on his lips, and the slight wrinkles at the corners of his eyes turned upwards, giving him a refined and gentle demeanor. If the vein on his forehead wasn't throbbing so fast. "Sophia, I told you my family would like you, didn't I?" Ethan, like an idiot, was still excitedly chirping, "Don't be nervous, just call him Dad." "Could you please shut up?" Kevin smiled, satisfied, and nodded. Suddenly, a crushing sound came from inside the house, accompanied by a man's crying. It was Leo. What's wrong with him? Why is he crying? Was he scammed by a woman? Ethan sighed. How much money did he lose this time? Kevin's voice held anger. He didn't lose money this time, but it's worse than losing money. What a disgrace. He was in an online relationship with a woman for half a year, and yesterday she suddenly told him she was nearly 40, divorced with 3 kids. My heart suddenly paused for a beat. Why did that sound so much like the excuse I used to break up with my puppy last night? Ethan was silent for a long time, then comforted the furious Kevin. "Leo is young. There's nothing he could do if he was scammed by a scheming old woman like that. Now that he knows the truth, he'll cry for a couple of days and get over it." "Dad, don't be angry." Scheming old woman. That's me. I was listening from the side, growing more and more anxious. But at least it was only a half-online relationship. Not a single word of the 3 words in the name I'd given my puppy was real, and he'd never even seen what I looked like. I figured it shouldn't be a big deal. But Kevin continued. He's hired private detectives from across the state to find that woman. They've reportedly located her general whereabouts. She's in the city. Good. If she dares to bring such disgrace upon our family, I certainly won't let that old woman get away with it. The old woman, me, promptly knelt down on the ground again. Ethan panicked. Sophia, what's wrong with you now? My tears fell. My stomach hurts. Ethan ran off to have their chef cook me some warming soup for my stomach. He tried to help me inside, but Kevin glared at him again. My father's always like this. When I fell as a child, he wouldn't let anyone help me up. Don't mind him. Ethan whispered into my ear. But he really likes you. I've never seen him smile like this before today. Please, for the love of God, shut up. He smiled just like that at the guy he drove to bankruptcy that day. I saw it clearly. I wanted to escape, but I couldn't, because Kevin had twisted the door lock 18 times, clearly intending for me not to leave alive. His eyes kept darting to my stomach. I looked down. I'd been eating a bit too much lately. My belly fat was starting to show. He liked slender, delicate women, so to keep me in good shape, he'd hired a nutritionist specifically for me. Every time I secretly ate a burger and he found out, he'd lecture me for half a month. When he took me to parties, he'd make me try on 18 different gowns, only to finally say with a sour face, "This will have to do." I thought he was a bit of a male chauvinist, though of course I never dared to say it, especially since he gave me so much. Thinking of this, a light bulb suddenly went off in my head. If I became everything he hated, maybe he wouldn't feel the need to get angry with someone like me. I decided to act on it. I abruptly relaxed my abdominal muscles, and my belly instantly puffed out. Ugh, I've been eating too well lately, I said, patting my belly, glancing at him out of the corner of my eye. Why were his eyes red? Before I could think too much, a glass arced gracefully through the air from the living room, heading straight for my forehead. Yes. Now I could legitimately fake fainting and go to the hospital. I jutted out my forehead to meet it. But Kevin's hand cut off my survival instinct, blocking my face and catching the glass. Kevin leaned close to my ear, his voice low. I'll settle this with you tonight. With that, he stormed into the living room, scolding the crying, noisy young man. What's all this racket? Aren't you embarrassed enough? The young man was being held down on the sofa by a group of staff, struggling and throwing whatever he could grab. He wasn't listening at all. I don't care. I've decided she's the one for me my whole life. Let me out. I need to go find Lee. Kevin's anger turned to a sneer. He stepped aside and pointed at the main door. If you walk out that door today, I'll disown you. My heart clenched. If you let him out and his detective team finds me, what then? Maybe you should just beat him to death. Seeing the young man about to leave, I quickly went up and grabbed him. Leo Vance, right? You've never even met her. Have you considered she might be really ugly, which is why she's afraid to see you? I don't mind. I like ugly. That's easy. I can introduce you to someone even uglier later. I don't care. She's the ugliest. I smiled, wanting to ask Kevin to slap him a couple of times. But then he looked up, and I saw his adorable face, red and tear-stained. I felt a little soft-hearted, but mostly excited. Yes, half the reason I hadn't rejected him was that he looked so pretty when he cried. It really got to me. From my years of experience as a serial dater, people who lose their minds when they fall in love can't be scolded. They need to be appeased. I gently placed my hand on his hair and stroked it. Have you ever considered why she suddenly came clean with you? Maybe she had some hardship? Do you know how much pressure it would put on her if you searched the entire world for her? So, why not let her cool down for a few days? When she's thought things through, she'll definitely contact you. Yes. Give him a few days, he'll turn over a new leaf and start fresh, even if it means joining a monastery to avoid you ex-boyfriends. That's fine too. Leo actually listened. He docilely rubbed his fluffy head against my palm, then wiped his wet eyes, like a puppy. Talking to you makes me feel so much better, just like talking to Lee. I'll listen to you. I'll look for Lee in a few days. At this, I breathed a sigh of relief. Who knew he'd then say, then for these next few days, while I'm free, could you date me? Kevin, and Ethan all changed expressions simultaneously. Kevin told the butler/housekeeper to bring a rope to tie up Leo, to prevent him from running off. He was pressed to the ground by several people, still struggling, red marks appearing on his neck and wrists, stark against his fair skin. "I'll do it." I felt a little sorry for him. Hearing my voice, he suddenly stopped struggling and docilely let me tie him up. After I finished tying Leo, I clapped my hands and stood up with a sigh of relief. Then I saw the strange looks on everyone's faces in the room. "Sophia, you're not as quite artistic, huh?" Ethan said, his face red, trying to smooth things over for me. I turned my head, and when I saw the rope on Leo, my heart suddenly skipped another beat. Without thinking, I'd habitually tied him in a complex bondage knot. Kevin's eyes moved between me and Ethan, displeased. "You two are quite kinky, aren't you?"
Who taught you that?
Before I could argue, a cool voice came from the doorway. "Me." The man who spoke took off his coat. His neatly ironed white shirt and perfectly tailored dress pants outlined a tall, slender figure. A pair of gold-rimmed glasses rested on his straight nose, and he carried a rolled-up drawing paper under his arm. He exuded an air of refined scholarly elegance. "Brother, I thought you weren't coming back today." Ethan hurried forward to take the man's coat, then leaned close to my ear. "This is my brother, Julian. Don't be nervous. He has a very good temper. He'll definitely like you." "Sophia, why do you look so pale?" Pale wasn't the half of it. I wished I could drop dead on the spot. Watching the man who taught me the knots approach, I could only lower my head and meekly say, "Hello, Professor Vance." Professor Vance and I were playing a very new kind of dating game. It wasn't actually that new. He had a recent series of paintings called Forbidden Love, and he happened to take a liking to me. I posed as his model, and he just told me to call him Professor Vance. This would have been perfectly normal if the painting process hadn't involved ropes. But he offered so much, and combined with his refined appearance, I reluctantly agreed. The result was this idiot blaming gravity for his own constipation. After 3 days of painting, he insisted the feeling wasn't right and forced me into a contract relationship with him. Well, I'm not some phantom, so of course I refused to the death. He said the commission would be doubled, and I immediately said, "Okay, husband." It was only a 6-month contract anyway, and earning money wasn't shameful. After all, I'd run away from home penniless and was relying entirely on Leo's wallet to get by. Who knew that after getting drunk, I absent-mindedly agreed to go public with Ethan and meet his family. I had no choice but to break up with Professor Vance and terminate the contract. My excuse was that we had conflicting personalities. I liked tying people up, not being tied up.
See?
Conflicting attributes, sorry. Julian glanced at Leo on the floor and sneered. "Happy now?" My smile trembled and I didn't dare reply. "Brother, you know Sophia?" Ethan, that idiot, brightened up again. "Having someone familiar means Sophia won't be so nervous, huh?" "Thank you so much." Kevin's face was sour. "You taught her that knot?" Julian's tone was unfriendly. "What, you want to learn too?" These two didn't get along well. Ethan had mentioned that when Kevin brought Leo and married into the Vance family, Julian was very unhappy and angrily left home. Now, it looked like the two were about to start arguing. Stop fighting, stop fighting. What are you two arguing about among family?" A languid, beautiful female voice, drawn out like a song, came from a bedroom. Then the door opened, revealing first a pair of bare feet, as fair and smooth as jade, seemingly sculpted by a master artist. The arch and ankle curves were just right, dazzlingly beautiful. Next came a red, open silk robe, outlining a perfect figure. Finally, there was that androgynously beautiful face, with her hair loosely tied in a bun. She looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. She yawned sleepily. "I just got back from filming at dawn. Can I get some decent sleep?" Serafina Vance, my most terrifying ex. She saw me, her eyes curving into a smile. Well, a distinguished guest." As Serafina spoke, she placed a hand on my shoulder, revealing a section of her forearms like white porcelain. Instantly, the men in the room looked at us strangely. Even the usually amiable Ethan's expression changed slightly. "Sister, you know Sophia? How come I never heard her mention it?" Serafina chuckled softly, like a scheming fox. "Oh, that? You'll have to ask Sophia." "Ask me? What would I say? That you caught me dating several people at once, and then blackmailed me into acting like your puppy?" She was the only ex I hadn't invented a strange reason to break up with. On one hand, there was no need. I couldn't lie to her. On the other hand, I knew she never had any feelings for me, purely treating me as a toy. Unexpectedly, when she heard I wanted to break up, She just smiled faintly and said, "Good." Good heavens, she already knew this was coming. But Ethan was looking at me expectantly, so I had no choice but to bite the bullet and make up an excuse. I'm her fan. Luckily, Eleanor, Ethan's mother, brought the chef to serve the dishes to the dining table at that moment. His mother was said to be 10 years older than Kevin and a powerful businesswoman. After her husband cheated, she kicked him out and only married Kevin in a formal marriage due to family pressure. She had been smiling until she saw me. But I didn't recognize her at the time and quickly ran to the only person in the room I had no history with to help her serve the dishes. She just stared at me blankly for a long time. I don't know what she was looking at. With the food served, everyone took their seats. I was so nervous I was trembling, silently reciting table manners in my head. Kevin, sitting next to me, suddenly asked, "Is the food not to your liking?" I quickly said, No. It's all delicious." 10 pairs of eyes turned to me, and I felt a chill down my spine. A fork suddenly dropped beside me. Serafina smiled and asked me, "Sophia, excuse me, could you help me pick it up?" I felt like something was off, but what could I do? I had no choice but to bend down and crouch, burying my head under the table to pick it up. Then I saw Serafina's bare foot slowly lift, quietly inching towards Julian's leg. A rub, 2 rubs, 3 rubs. Julian's body suddenly trembled. Immediately after, he silently reached down a hand, extending it to push. The man's hand was beautiful, and the woman's foot was also beautiful, making me swallow. But the moment his hand touched Serafina's toes, his hand quickly recoiled as if it had touched a spark, his fingertips faintly blushing. What's going on with these two? Sarah Miller. Julian suddenly spoke, his voice angry yet with a hint of undetectable shame. "How long are you going to take to pick that up?" Seeing that foot lightly arched like a white snake, Julian's pant leg was about to get closer. I quickly scrambled back to my seat, sitting up straight. The foot retreated. "Sophia, what took you so long?" Serafina smiled as she took the fork. "Was there a snake under the table?" Julian maintained his gentlemanly composure, though his earlobes were slightly flushed. He reached up and tugged at his impeccably tied tie. I suddenly stood up. "Excuse me, I need to leave for a moment." I scurried upstairs to the restroom, locked the door, and began contemplating the possibility of flushing myself into the Pacific Ocean via the toilet. But just as I'd rejected countless plans and was about to lift the toilet tank lid to knock myself out, someone knocked on the door. The figure outside, with perfectly combed hair and immaculately arranged clothes, looked as if drawn with a ruler. I knew immediately who it was, Julian. Maybe I should just knock him out instead. I took a deep breath and opened the door. He abruptly darted inside, slammed the door shut, and pressed me against the wall. I grabbed his tie, pulled hard, spun around, and pinned him against the wall. One hand braced beside his ear, reversing the pin against the wall. I pulled hard on his tie, lowering his face a few inches until our eyes met. His impeccably combed hair fell loosely, a few strands resting on his forehead, revealing a hint of panic. "What do you mean?" His voice was still cool, but somehow trembled. "Didn't I tell you?" I hooked my lip, reaching up to push his tie knot higher, constricting his neck. "Our attributes clash. Don't you understand?" His face quickly reddened from lack of oxygen, but he didn't try to struggle. He instinctively opened his mouth, taking deep breaths, his hot breath brushing against my ear. "It's fine, I can accept it." I panicked. He was supposed to push me away, call me crazy, and walk out, wasn't he? Ugh, I must not be acting well enough. So I pulled my lips into a cold smile, imagining myself as an alpha, and lifted his chin with my thumb. "Break up. It's an order, not a discussion." "Understood." A muffled, ambiguous soft moan escaped his throat. His white shirt was wrinkled, and the skin beneath it seemed to be faintly reddening. "But the contract hasn't expired. You'll have to pay for breach of contract." I acted nonchalant, but my heart was pounding. "Dude, say anything but money, okay?" I forced myself to stay calm and stroked his head. "Then I'll apologize and you'll kneel and listen." Surely now he'll get furious, slap me, and walk away. But then I heard a soft moan from his throat that shouldn't have come from him. And then he slid down the wall like his bones had turned to jelly, kneeling at my feet, only the tie around his neck still clutched in my hand. His glasses were askew, and his eyes were unfocused as he looked up at me. To this is a new discovery. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He must be running out of oxygen and about to faint. I fumbled to loosen his tie knot, then scurried away without looking back. Why did I feel a sense of guilt, like I'd seduced and abandoned him? Sophia, why is your face so red? Ethan rushed to me as soon as I returned to the living room. I am not feeling well. I want to go lie down for a bit. Kevin was glaring menacingly at me. Serafina was smiling, probably plotting something wicked, and Julian, who was stumbling after me, also had a strange look in his eyes. Don't stand around. Run for your life. Are you okay? I'll take you to my room to rest. Ethan said softly. No, the others all shouted in unison, and the living room fell into an awkward silence. There's a guest room at the end of the second-floor hallway. Finally, Eleanor spoke, and I felt as if granted a reprieve, taking off immediately. But why did it feel like something was missing? Until I passed the sofa and saw Leo, tied up and motionless on the floor, like an abandoned puppy. His own father must have looked down on him, and his intelligence couldn't compare to his two older stepbrothers. Eleanor also didn't give him much attention, and his two brothers treated him like a stranger. So much so that no one even remembered him for dinner. And I, surrounded by a swarm of exes, was too nervous to remember he was still tied up. I sighed, crouched down, and untied him. Then I went upstairs to my room, locked the door, and said I was resting, no matter who came. I hid until night, calculating the time, figuring everyone must be asleep before I prepared to sneak away. But the moment my hand touched the doorknob, a desperate knocking sounded, startling me. It's me. It was Kevin's voice outside the door. I played dead for another half hour. When there was no more sound outside, I finally dared to quietly unlock the door and slowly pull it open, only to come face to face with Kevin. What is this? A midnight horror story. I used to be Eleanor's stand-in. The reason Kevin brought Ethan and married into the Vance family, even changing his son's surname, was because his company needed a large sum of money. It was said that after Eleanor's ex-husband cheated and left, he found some true love. After the marriage, Eleanor wouldn't even give Kevin a proper look, let alone let him into her bedroom. Kevin, originally from a wealthy family himself, how could he stand it? So he happened to meet me and hired me to impersonate Eleanor. Every time he took me out, he'd make me change into dozens of gowns, watching with a sullen expression from the side, waving his hand, and calling them ugly. He always made me mimic Eleanor's every gesture and expression. It made my face almost cramp. He would even pound the table and say, "It's not like her." He was probably trying to find a shred of his shattered pride from home in me. Although he annoyed me, he gave me so much. And besides that, there seemed to be no other faults to pick. When my mother needed money for surgery, I hadn't even opened my mouth, and the hospital had already received the transfer. At parties, when he put his arm around my waist, his hand only rested gently. As soon as the party dispersed, he would impatiently tell the driver to send me packing, never crossing the line. My pepper spray, which I'd prepared, was never put to use. He even played the role of my father for a bit when someone at school mocked me for being an orphan, waving his hand and donating a building to the school. So, when he pushed the door open and walked in with a dark expression, I really didn't have the heart to kick him out. The door closed. He stood with his arms crossed, silent, just staring coldly at me. Is this the oppressive feeling of being reprimanded by Daddy? How old? He suddenly asked. What? I asked. How many months pregnant are you? His voice gained a touch of anger. It took me a long time, blinking, to suddenly remember the excuse I'd used when I broke up with him. I'm sorry, I'm pregnant with someone else's child. No wonder. He kept staring at my stomach. But dude, I'm just fat, not pregnant. But I couldn't say that. If he knew I lied to him, I'd be in even worse trouble. 2 months. Ethan's? Yes. He fell silent for a long time again, his face looking as if it had just been dug out of a morgue. He suddenly raised his hand, and I quickly hugged my head, but he only tucked my hair behind my ear, his voice softer and more tender than I had ever heard. As long as you break up with my son, I can raise my grandson as my own son. My brain crashed. So, you want your son to call his son his brother? That's too advanced for humanity. Sophia, I'm serious. His face showed a hint of urgency. I know I wasn't good to you before. I just felt like I was too old for you, and I didn't feel worthy. But I can't take it anymore. Let me take you away, please. We can go abroad. A knock on the door interrupted him. Both our expressions suddenly changed. I had already imagined tomorrow's newspaper headlines. Unmarried pregnant teenager caught doing this with father-in-law in her room at midnight. He frantically paced the room, his gaze finally landing on the space under the bed. He made a shushing gesture at me and quickly crawled in. I took a long breath, rubbed my face. Outside the door was Leo. There were still tear stains on his face, his eyes red, but I had no time to admire his beauty. I pulled him into the room, then poked my head out to look around, confirming no one saw me before gently closing the door. Is something wrong? Actually, I heard what you and my father were saying outside the door just now. So you're pregnant with Dad's child. He seemed to have heard, but not completely. He continued, I understand now. My online girlfriend is you. It's okay. Even if you become my mother, it's okay. This isn't a stepmother romance trope. Mom, please don't leave me, okay? I want to go abroad with you. I'll be very well behaved. How did he start calling me mom already? I wanted to slap him and show him what motherly love was all about. Unfortunately, the desperate knocking sounded again. Get in there, I whispered, pointing to under the bed. He lowered his head, like a child who had done something wrong, and docilely crawled under the bed, even greeting Kevin, Dad, you're here too. This time it was Julian knocking. I didn't care if anyone saw me anymore. I pulled him into the room and closed the door. I used a bit too much force, and he was thrown onto the bed. Since there were already two people stuffed under the bed, I decided to just let my true nature show. Are you a masochist? Wasn't I clear enough with you? Why are you clinging to me like a dog? Julian, who had already half risen, froze at my words, his face instantly turning red. I thought he was getting angry. Good, if he's angry, he can just hit me to blow off steam, and then leave. So I took a step, jumped onto the bed, straddled him, and raised my hand high. Are you going to leave or not? If not, I'll hit you. He blinked, then bit his lip and slowly closed his eyes, his hands tightly gripping the bed sheet. His face seemed to be asking, why are you rewarding me? Gently or harder, that's fine too. His Adam's apple bobbed, his voice low and hoarse. His collarbone was also flushed, trembling with pink goosebumps. Something's wrong. This person is very wrong. My hand was awkwardly suspended in midair. I didn't know what to do. What's wrong? He opened his eyes, which were originally as deep as the night sky, now misty with tears. He subtly shifted his hips under me. Something's very, very wrong. He started unbuckling his belt. I panicked. There were still two people stuffed under the bed. You can't do that. I pressed down on it. He blinked. Using a belt is less effort. Lend me your belt. I promise I'll beat him to death. A voice came from under the bed. Who? Julian was shocked. The knocking sound came again. Perfectly timed. Get in there, you. I grabbed Julian's tie and shoved him under the bed. What are you guys doing here? You're bumping into me. Get out of the way. This time, the male guest making an appearance was Ethan. If you ask me, Ethan truly was a breath of fresh air in this bizarre family. Everything about him and me was ordinary. We met in the library, ran into each other a few times, and then started dating. It was like any normal relationship, explainable in a few dozen words. The only thing that wasn't quite ordinary was probably the day my father found me at school. He was drunk, clutching a liquor bottle, and blocked me at the school gate/campus entrance, demanding money. He asked me where I got the money for my mother's treatment, asking if I was selling myself. When I refused him, he pulled out the photos he had secretly taken of me to sell for money. He was driven out by the security guard, the photos scattered everywhere, and playful glances and whispers spread around me. I was blocked downstairs at the residence hall, had dirty water poured all over me, and was told I didn't deserve to go inside. So when Ethan rushed over and reached out to pull me, I moved aside to avoid him. He was as bright as sunshine, while I was a rat struggling to survive in a gutter. I never thought I deserved anything good in this world. I'm dirty. He didn't comfort me, nor did he make any vows to stay by my side. He simply picked up the bucket of dirty water on the ground and poured it over his own head.
See?
I'm not exactly clean either. Ethan walked into the room. Are you feeling better? He still had that gentle, warm smile. I seemed to have never seen any other expression on his face. Much better. Sophia, you seem a bit strange today, he said, then quietly leaned against the wall, asking no further questions, fiddling with the ring I had given him. He was always like that. He never forced me to say what I didn't want to. I decided to be honest with him, to tell him that everyone in his family except his mother was my ex. But before I could open my mouth, another knock came from outside. Is Sophia in there? Eleanor. What was she doing here? Ethan blinked. I should hide, after all, We're not married yet, and it's not appropriate for me to be in your room in the middle of the night before we're married. With that, he instinctively crawled under the bed. Oh, you guys. Hi, couldn't sleep, just came out for some fresh air. What a coincidence, me too. Me too. Eleanor was very well preserved. She looked nothing like a woman in her early 40s. As soon as she entered the room, she stared intently at my face, her eyes slightly red-rimmed. Anger. You've come back for me, haven't you? After all these years, are you finally willing to accept our relationship? At the sound of that nickname, which I hadn't heard in ages, my brain exploded. Dead memories came rushing back to attack me. It must have been about 4 years ago. To earn tuition, I worked as an online chat host for a while. My ID was Anger King. My first and last client was a sugar mama type whose husband had cheated and she had just gotten divorced. Due to financial necessity, I used a voice changer and chatted with her for over a month. She suddenly said she liked me and wanted to meet me. But I was still very professional. My purpose was to comfort the wealthy woman's wounded heart. Scamming money or emotions was not part of it. So I turned off the voice changer, apologized honestly, and admitted I was a woman. I'm sorry, I can refund all the money from this period. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a surprised voice came through. That's wonderful, sweetie. That worthless man broke my heart, and now I get sick just seeing men. That's wild. As long as you're willing, I can support you for life. Who could resist that? But I had to resist. Because of my family background, I never believed there was anyone in this world I could rely on forever, so I still refused her. I respected your decision, so I never bothered you all these years. But you appeared before me today, and I truly couldn't control myself. I instinctively glanced under the bed, feeling a pang of sadness for Ethan. Sorry, even your mom likes me. I was about to explain things to her, but she continued, Don't be afraid. I've already bought 2 islands. One in Northern Europe where you can see the aurora, and one in Indonesia where you can sunbathe. Whichever you like, we'll go there. No one will bother us. Is this what a sugar mommy type is like? My heart was truly moved. Thankfully, another knock on the door saved my collapsing sanity. Sweetie, consider me. Eleanor hooked my pinky finger, then crawled under the bed. 3 simultaneous moms rang out from under the bed, followed by a wife. Anyway, there was no one left in this house. When Serafina walked in, I didn't even bother to close the door. I even wanted to point to under the bed and tell her to go in and reunite with her family. Serafina glanced around the empty, yet not so empty room, smiling. Quite a lively gathering. Sure enough, nothing escaped that one's eyes. Smartass, I muttered softly. She didn't get annoyed. She lazily sauntered to the side of the bed, reached up to untie her hair, letting her long hair fall loose. She lay down on her side, propping her head with one hand, and patted the edge of the bed with the other. Sophia, sit. This gesture might seem affected on anyone else, but she was simply too beautiful. My hemorrhoids are flaring up. Can't sit. She chuckled, but her eyes held only mockery. Isn't she just trying to be affectionate with you, wanting to get closer? I scoffed. Is it fun to toy with me? If others liked me, I could still understand, but as for her, she would never fall in love with anyone. She wrapped a strand of hair around her index finger, idly playing with it. It's very interesting. After all, it's rare to meet someone just like me. Oh, so you have hemorrhoids too? I didn't hold back with my words. She extended a slender finger and pulled down her lower eyelid, her face instantly gaining a hint of wickedness. You have the same eyes as me, eyes incapable of love. Her finger gently tapped the edge of the bed, suggestively. Have you ever told him you loved him, or even liked him? I remained silent. She was right. I truly didn't understand what love was. After all, ever since I could remember, all I saw was my father's drunken fists raised at my mother. He used the money from selling my secretly taken photos to buy me a dress. See how much Daddy loves you? So wear it and let Daddy take another picture, okay? Love is taking, transactional. So I only took Ethan's tenderness. Serafina smiled. This abnormal family, all of them have fallen for an abnormal person like you. How interesting. It wasn't for nothing that I spent so much time arranging for you to meet them. At midnight, everyone was back at the dining table. The atmosphere was icy cold. Did you really never like me? Only Leo asked me, sobbing. I shook my head, and Ethan, who should have been the most furious, simply quietly brought tea and placed it in front of everyone. Sophia, what about me? He asked softly, sitting beside me. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. It's okay. He gently squeezed my hand. This is so boring, Serafina yawned, putting both her feet on the table and teasing Kevin and Julian. Aren't you two going to fight? Sister, could you please be quiet for a moment? Ethan stood up, his smile gone for the first time. I can wait for you. I can teach you. He knelt down solemnly before me, kissed my fingers like a knight. I knew, even if I dared not admit it, that I had already fallen for him. 2 years later, he brought me to a foreign land and we had our wedding, far away from my chaotic past.